What's up? It's your boy Carcino here. We're talking about the Austin, Texas bombings that left two gone and two injured. Um, and they were black, which is very strange that this happened. And this kid here was a black orchestra prodigy. So it was very sad to see that happen.
This week in Austin, it's our spring break, and it's the beginning week of the South by Southwest Music Festival, which is like it's Austin at its most joyful. And for it to start out with this news is really quite devastating and surreal. And I must say, I really appreciate your interest in this story, and I hope that it helps all of us that love Drayson. It helps us in the processing of this information.
I hope it does too. When I read about his family and also the family of Mr. House, they were two of the more prominent African American families in the community. Their relatives and uncles were, involved in a lot of, activities in the area, including, one was a dentist, the other was mentor to UT students. So this is the background that these gentlemen came from. They were very well thought of in the community, weren't they?
Yes, yeah. Draylen, the youth orchestra has been in existence for many years, and like this year is the 25th anniversary of that orchestra, and I have been a conductor of it for a long time, but I'm back this year as like help celebrate the 25th anniversary of it, and I have been working with Draylen since the fall of this year. I've watched him as he grew up, like coming through our ranks and watching him as a little boy and watching him then this year as a senior in high school, like, and as you said, he's been accepted into like a studio at UT. When I remember seeing Draylen, in this orchestra you have kids of high technical level, and that's sort of a given that the kids are going to be able to play. But every once in a while you see a kid that just has this spark. When Draylen appeared, in some sense he was kind of incandescent, like a Rembrandt painting where the light just sort of comes out of him. He's in the room, and it just his little spirit was there, and along with the technical proficiency he was a young man that was, I think, really headed for he could do it. I think he could accomplish anything he wanted to. We have people, alumni of this orchestra, like the first bassoonist of the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra in New York City was a member of this orchestra. The principal clarinetist of the Oregon Symphony was a member of this orchestra. There are many string players that are in really big orchestras and university teachers. I think Draylen was one of those kids that was really headed.
It's so sad. It's heartbreaking. And you describe him beautifully, and I can see what you're talking about when we look at these pictures of him. You can see the concentration as he plays, and it is such a tragedy. And I hope that we will continue, obviously, to put as much focus on this as we can, because we need to find the person that did this. This picture that we're showing now is just spectacular. So I'm sure you're all grieving, obviously, and we thank you for being with us tonight, Mr. Dick, and best of luck with you continue working with all of the other children that you have in your care. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. So coming up, the major announcement today about the future of the Parkland school shooter, Nicholas Cruz. And President Trump is in the Golden State tonight with his relationship with the state's governor. Anything but.
No, he's yet to really speak out about the bombing that killed the two black people in Austin, Texas, and injured two more. There's been very little information and very little coverage on this situation. Strange, but not surprising or shocking. Trump fired another aide today as they probe into records and everything else. He's the biggest deferrer that you could ever see in life. So it is what it is. Yeah, it's one of those package bombs. They come in and there you have it. Well, I try to keep it as real as humanly possible. It's been a little weird, to say the least, but I'm all right. Yeah, this one I don't even think went through postage. Now people are just setting boxes on people's outside the front of their home. And why was that the case? You know, that was the biggest problem or the biggest concern at the time was like why did that even matter? Like what was the point? Because the FBI is doing the investigation, and they say it appears to be connected. Yeah, see, 3 package bombs went off over 10 days. One killing that teenager that we just showed you, the black guy. A 39-year-old man is in critical condition, and he killed an old lady. See, 2 of the explosions happened within hours of each other on Monday. So that set the police scrambling. The first blast happened on March the 2nd. That was the 39-year-old black man who got killed. Then the 17-year-old kid that we just showed you, that was Monday morning. And a severely injured 75-year-old Hispanic woman was hurt Monday. They found a box not delivered by anybody in their house or on their porch. Police have not decided if these are hate crimes yet. But since you see 2 black people and you see a Hispanic woman, they'll believe it's a race case. Oh, yeah, of course it's terrorism. To its highest form and its highest degree. Now we get to hear Trump and his BS more and more and more. Here it is, the immigration
progress. Promise, the wall is one step closer to getting built. So today, he went down there to check out some of the samples. He looked at some of the prototypes in San Diego amid a fierce immigration debate in the Golden State.
Governor Brown's done a very poor job running California. You have sanctuary cities where you have criminals living in the sanctuary cities, very dangerous people, you would say dangerous people. And
well,
no, I
he
think
started in the right
a terrible
place.
job running the state of California.
Fighting
San
words from the
Diego
president
is
and
the
joining
place.
now David Wohl, attorney and conservative commentator, and says
San Diego is the place. Because Chula Vista is right by Tijuana, Mexico. You hop over the bridge and you're in Tijuana, Mexico. I mean, hop over the fence. The fence is probably as high as my television. I can jump over that standing up on my feet and be over that wall, over that little fence, and then I'm in the Tijuana, Mexico. I ain't had to go through no borders, nothing. And there's plenty of them coming over that fence going into Tijuana, Mexico. You know why Chula Vista is live? Yeah, it's live because there's a lot of action. So a lot of people from Mexico didn't flood it into Chula Vista. If you've been at a Walmart in Chula Vista, go to the candy aisle. All that food wrappers are all over the floor. I don't even know if it's still going on over there. It was terrible. People would come ransack that place, eat everything up, and break out. Welcome to Chula Vista. I'm not saying their head looks big at all. Does that help it?
Vargas, the former national Latino strategist for Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign and New York State's first openly undocumented attorney. Good to have both of you here. So, David, how you doing? So, today we saw the president. He said the wall's going to be concrete in some places. In some places, it will be see-through. It'll be 18 to 30 feet high. And he made the point that if you don't have a border, if you don't have a wall, you basically don't have a country. California sees it very differently, David.
Yeah, we do see it differently. Not me personally, but our leaders see it differently. You know, this has become an out-of-control situation, Martha. The governor and the various mayors are engaging in crimes, not just civil offenses, but crimes such as obstruction of justice, accessory after the fact, aiding and abetting fugitives. And until they're actually prosecuted, this is going to continue. You know, I've got clients I represent who don't do nearly as offensive things as these politicians have done, and they're charged. So why hasn't Libby Schaaf, the mayor of Oakland, charged when she tells the undocumented criminals to get out of town before ICE hits there, when she knows ICE is coming? You know, that's no different than a getaway driver driving bank robbers after the fact.
Yeah.
It's absolutely no different. This needs to end.
You're echoing Jeff Sessions' words. He was very forceful on this a couple of days ago, Cesar, when he was there, just saying that, you know, for a mayor to say that they're going to basically let people go or tell them to leave when these ICE agents are sweeping in, you have to wonder why the ICE agents, why even have them in California? Cesar.
Well, I do think that we have obviously an issue here that California and Oakland and all these cities in California are not saying anything about protecting criminals. They're not protecting about terrorists. They're saying that in this instance, Immigration Customs Enforcement and the Trump administration are aggressively targeting immigrants across the spectrum. People with violent criminal records, but people who are just there living their life, working for their families. That is at stake. That's what's going on. So as Dave was mentioning, well, they're committing crime. California does have the right to protect its residents. It is their right as a state to push against the federal government when they're being overbearing and they're pretty much interfering in the state's right to protect its own residents.
The
And I
wall,
think that's the main issue.
the wall is designed to keep people out, essentially, to keep illegals out from entering California. You know, and when you look at the statistics in terms of the numbers of people who are on federal assistance who are illegals in the state of California, one set of numbers says you could basically pay for the wall in a couple of years, David, if you just lower the number of people who are coming in and presenting a financial burden to the state.
Yeah. You know what also could happen is the federal funding that is cut from California could be diverted to the wall, to build the wall. And I'm telling you right now, it's that serious, Martha. You know, in all due respect, Caesar, I have a client whose fiance was killed by an illegal alien who had been deported 5 times. Got in a car while intoxicated and killed her. Now, he should have been deported. The sanctuary cities in the state made it so the feds couldn't deport him, and now he has a monthly visit to her grave instead of a marriage. You can't say that this is the federal government interfering with the state's rights to keep their residents in the state. This is an outrage, it's criminal behavior, and Jerry Brown and the mayors, Eric Garcetti and Libby Schaaf, have to be put in jail to send a strong message, then so be it.
Cesar.
Well, I really, you know, obviously it's so tragic that this had to happen, but in this
Didn't have to happen, that's the point. That person never should have been in the state and no one should be protecting them. It didn't have to happen. That's exactly the point.
But the Trump administration and California are not preventing agents from going into California. Immigration agents can still operate very effectively in California,
but
in
if
New
the
York,
mayor in
across the
Oakland is
country.
going to tip them off, my question is, why should they? Why should those agents put their own lives at risk to help people in California if the mayor is going to tip people off when they're coming?
Well, if we had an actual modern immigration policy where we can actually target people with violent criminal records, we can detain them, we can arrest them, and we can process them for deportation, then maybe. But this administration is not doing that. It's targeting both undocumented immigrants with no criminal records as well as legal permanent residents, attacking even citizens who have family members, military members who have families who are undocumented.
They're targeting the people with
administration.
Yeah, they're targeting the people with violent criminal records, not the minor offenders. So that's just not true. And Trump, believe me, Trump takes this seriously, and he's going to get very serious about it, and you're going to see this serious federal action coming very soon.
We have a lot of people being targeted with no
We'll see
criminal
what
records
happens to the
as
mayor
well.
of Oakland and others. We got to go, guys. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Good to see you.
So, there it is. Now, that's all you need to know about foreign policy. For anybody who cares to know. Foreign immigration policy. One side believes that they're profiling the right way. The other side believes that they're profiling everybody incorrectly. They're not only looking for violent criminals, they're also probing people who have no criminal records and hadn't done anything wrong at all. They are probing them as well. This is closed. Next subject.
Thank you, Martha.
So new tonight, a major development in the Parkland shooting. What prosecutors just announced in the case against the 19-year-old shooter. Plus, this gun shop owner refused to sell Nicholas Cruz a gun. He is now speaking out tonight, and his reasoning in that moment will give you chills. I'll be right back.
Shut up. Are you at the school? I can't hear you. Are you at the school?
if you just sign that.
Florida say that they will seek the death penalty in the case against this man, the 19-year-old, in last month's Parkland shooting that left 17 people dead, including 14 students. A local gun shop owner says that he tried to prevent this from happening by refusing to sell a firearm to that gunman because of his age, just a few months before the shooting. Here now is his story. Rozzie Grady, the owner of Coconut Creek Pawn Shop in Florida, joins me now. Mr. Grady, thank you for being here. Take us back to that moment when he walked into your gun shop and you decided not to sell him a gun. What were your impressions of him, and why did you make that choice?
He walked into the store. We had a couple of other customers at the store at the time, and he waited his turn. He looked around, and when his turn came, he asked if he can see some AR-15s. And I asked him how old you are. He said, I'm over 18. And I said, are you younger than 21? He said, yes. And I told him this is our store policy not to sell weapons to under 21 or kids under the age of 21. He didn't argue, but he said, it is within my rights. And I said, I understand that, but it has been our store policy to prevent that from happening when it comes to our store. And I didn't make much of it at the time. He turned around and left. Obviously, he was very upset. He left us a Google review, which was pretty bad.
Yeah, he wrote a Google review of your store. And what did he say about you on that?
He said, if I recall, he said something like, denied me customer service, something like denied him the customer service. Very judgmental, denied me customer service.
You were very judgmental. Why did you make that decision? Now the law will be 21 in the state of Florida since the bill has been signed by Governor Scott, but that was just your own decision. Why did you make that decision back then?
I own an air conditioning company in Florida, and the pawn shop is a pretty new thing for me. I only own it for about a little bit over 5 years, and it's a different type of crowd, different type of people. And when I studied in my pawn shop, I noticed that kids that come to the store at the age of 18, which they can start selling and pawning stuff, are very disrespectful. If they don't get their way, they get rowdy. And I got spit on a couple of times. I got people throwing punches at me a couple of times. And I decided when it comes to weapons, not to sell weapons to them. Honestly, I didn't think they would be ready for it. And I didn't want anything happening that being on my conscience. So it's been my store policy from day one not to sell weapons to kids under the 21.
Yeah, and you have a military background yourself, I believe. So tell me what your reaction was when you saw who did this in Parkland to all of these poor students, and you realized that he had been in your shop. How'd you feel?
Well, I saw a picture of him. I was actually, when it happened, I was in Israel visiting family. And I checked when I had the name, I knew it sounded familiar because I engaged all my customers in my store with conversations and asked for the names. And I went online to see a picture of him, and I realized that he was in my store. And I couldn't, I don't want to say the word jumped out of happiness that I didn't sell him the weapon, but I was so relieved. And there was still a little doubt in my mind, and I was 99.9% sure that it was him. I knew he was there a few months prior to. I couldn't place him exactly in time, but when about a week ago, when we went over our Google reviews, we realized that it was him about 4 months ago in the store.
Well, you sound like a wise man, sir, and that you make responsible decisions in your store. And unfortunately, the same decisions weren't necessarily made by others. And I thank you for being here, Mr. Grady. Good to see you tonight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, as you know, it is an election night in Pennsylvania 18, and the polls are about to close. We're going to start getting numbers rolling in just minutes from now. Our power panel, Larry Sabato, Mark Thiessen, and Mo Lethe on what to watch for tonight in Pennsylvania. We'll be right back.
Who cares about Pennsylvania right now?
Plus, Vice President Mike Pence will be celebrating St. Patty's Day at one of the biggest events in the U.S. We'll have more on that after the break.
is no longer viable for rehabilitation. But a lot of them are no longer viable as human beings in this planet.
True to his word, over 12,000 Filipino citizens have been killed since Duterte took power in June of 2016. Police openly concede that 3,000 of them were killed in anti-narcotics operations, most of them either small-time dealers or drug users. But human rights groups fear that many of the other 9,000 deaths were also drug war related, the result of vigilantes executing people with the tacit support of police.
Every time na may mamatay na walang suspect, extrajudicial killing. Isa na sa maabot na ng 3,000, ako ang palaging pinagbibintangan.
Critics worry where his campaign will end. The Philippines has over 1.8 million drug users. Will it be open season on all of them?
Unless your doctor tells you to.
Crucial special election in Pennsylvania, just moments away.
Aaron. Wahhabis of peace.
It's a special election in a district that was heavily pro-Trump, plus 20% pro-Trump in 2016, where the Democrat has a real shot to win. That's not to say he's the favorite, it's simply to say he has a shot to win. And the last turnover we had in any House special election was 24 elections ago, back in November of 2012. So it doesn't happen very often in this heavily gerrymandered age that you have a turnover.
Yeah. Mark, when you look at the breakdown in this district of Republicans to Democrats, there are slightly fewer Republicans, and there are enough who don't belong to either party that you could swing this race. So obviously, it's going to come down, as it often does, to people who are in that, who are not necessarily deeply aligned with a party, right?
Absolutely, and it's a conservative district, but I agree completely with Larry that Connor Lamb has got a chance to win. But the reason he's got a chance to win is because he's a political unicorn. He's a pro-life, pro-gun, pro-fracking, anti-Pelosi Democrat, which means he's basically to voters a Republican. And this is not something that if Democrats were to replicate this all over the country and put up a bunch of pro-life, pro-gun, pro-fracking Democrats in Middle America, they'd win a lot of elections. But they're not going to do that, and you can see that in the case of in Illinois recently, where the DNC refused to endorse a 7-term incumbent Democratic congressman named Dan Lipinski for the simple reason that he's pro-life. The head of the DNC recently said that would refuse to say whether pro-life Democrats were welcome in his party. So if Democrats wanted to replicate this, I'd be worried, but they're not.
So Mo, there's not a lot of room in your party for a lot more Connor Lambs, it sounds like.
There is a lot of room in the Democratic Party for a lot of different people who are running against Donald Trump. Look, I mean, Donald Trump's the reason why this race has become as competitive as it is. He won the district by 20 points, but we have seen in every special election since the 2016 election, Democrats overperforming. Even in those districts where they are falling short, the energy is behind the Democratic candidates, and they are doing better than they ever have in these districts. The place to watch here tonight are the suburbs, the Pittsburgh suburbs. That's where a lot of congressional races are going to be fought over the course of the next year. And how the Republican does in those districts where polling is showing Donald Trump hemorrhaging support. If in the suburbs he gets shellacked, then that is a huge red flag for the Republican Party heading into the midterms.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the whole state, look at the Philadelphia area, and the suburbs are going to be very important as we move forward in the course of these midterms. Larry, when you look at this, also you got to talk about candidate quality, and you think about Alabama and what happened, and Doug Jones was the victor over Roy Moore there, and now you've got this candidate who, according to some reports, the president himself has said is pretty lackluster, although he cheered him on the other night when he was there.
Yeah, it's beware your friends. Your enemies, you know what to expect from. It's your friends that'll get you. And look, party is central. There's no question about that. But we forget candidate quality really does matter. And the point that Mark made should be underlined. Democrat, regardless of whether Conor Lamb wins or not, he's going to be highly competitive in a district that shouldn't even have been close. Why? He's a really good candidate, and he has some moderate views, and he made it clear he doesn't embrace Nancy Pelosi. You know, hello, Democratic Party, when you have suburban districts that are red or purple, this is the kind of candidate that you really ought to put up, assuming you actually want to win a majority.
And you know, and Mark, to underline your point, as Larry rightly suggests, you know, moving forward, Tom Perez has suggested that he doesn't want any more of these kind of candidates.
No, that's exactly right. This is exactly the kind of candidate Democrats should be trying to run in states that Trump won by, in some cases, by double digits. If they want to win back Middle America, instead they're focused on being the resistance and getting the coasts. But also, this candidate, the Republican candidate, isn't just bad; he's offensive. He said Democrats hate America and hate God. It's hard if you lose to somebody like that.
I gotta get Mo in. Mo, I got 10 seconds.
Yeah, look, I think what you're seeing here is Democrats nominating a candidate who fits their district, and Republicans nominating a candidate who fits the Trump White House. And I think that's what it comes down to.
Let's see. We're gonna.
Well, here's the problem. Of course, this is what they're doing. And to make a long story short, all they want to do is attack Trump. The Democrat wants to put Trump. He had nothing really to say about the candidate except for this guy is going along with whatever Trump is saying. And the Republicans like, yep, it's true. We're trying to corner the market. So, in the end, what will get done? Nothing. And Meek Mill will still be in jail. So, you know, where does any of this make sense?